Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bulvinder Gore, and we're so excited to be able to go ahead and have our Elevate Youth California Youth Substance Use Disorder Prevention Program Round 5 Standard Track, or what we call Cohort 5 Funded Partner Overview Webinar. Next slide, please. We'll do a round of introductions from our team. Before we go ahead and do introductions, just congratulations. I know many of you have been long awaiting this award announcement, and we appreciate your patience in ensuring that we can make the announcement as quickly as possible. And just congratulations for being selected for Elevate Youth California Standard Track Cohort 5. For introductions, not with us today is Matt Cervantes, who is the Managing Director of the Healthy Youth Development Program here at the Center at Sierra Health Foundation. My name is Bulvinder Gore. I have the honor and privilege of serving as a Senior Program Officer here at the Center, and I'm the day-to-day lead with Elevate Youth California. I'll pass it over to Shira.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're so delighted that you all are here. My name is Shira Murray, and I'm a Program Officer with Elevate Youth California. I'll go ahead and pass it over to my colleague, Travis.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Travis Wells. I'm a Senior Program Associate here with the EYC team and happy to support y'all. Congratulations again. I'll pass it over to Antonia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antonia Gonzalez. My pronouns are they, them. I am the Program Associate here with the EYC team. Happy to be supporting everyone here and happy to be sharing space. I'll pass it over to Gerald.
Hi, everyone. Gerald White, Program Associate with Elevate Youth California. Congratulations. And I think I will toss it back to Bulvinder.
We'll go to the next slide and we'll continue on with introductions. So we have our evaluation team, and I'll pass it over to Noemi and Brianna for introductions for the team.
Good morning, everyone, and congratulations. My name is Brianna Mattis. I'm an evaluation associate with Sierra Health Foundation and the Center. And not here with us today, but on the slide, we have Marie Samuels, who's the Managing Director of Evaluation and Learning, and Noemi Avalos, who's the Senior Evaluation Officer. And we'll be supporting you by supporting with the external evaluation as well as your monitoring. So I'll pass it back to Bulvinder.
Thank you. We'll continue on with introductions from the Centers team. To Samantha.
Hi, everyone. Samantha Garcia, she, her, hers pronouns, representing the communications team. We have additional members of the team, Daniel Sankari and Danae LaMarche, that aren't on this slide because for the purposes of Elevate Youth California, we have the great privilege, myself, Lisa Weir, our Senior Communications Officer, and Madison Taylor, our Communications Associate, of being your communications team, and looking forward to working with you all. Thanks.
Thanks, Samantha. And we'll continue on with the last of the introductions from our team. I believe Chris's on, so we'll do Carissa and then we'll pass it over to Keith.
Hello, I'm Carissa Rogers. I am the contract administrator. And then Joan Cassis is also on the slide as the interim managing director for contract compliance.
Good afternoon, Keith Wilson, senior grant accountant at the Center at SHF, supporting Elevate Youth California. Glad to be on the call with you all.
Thanks, Keith. And not on the call is Lucas Cole, who's our associate controller, who also supports with the EYC program here. So that's our introductions for the Centers team. And next slide, and I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Hey, everyone, and congratulations again. My name is Jessica Guerra, and I'm the section chief of the Program and Policy section at the Department of Healthcare Services.
Thanks so much, Jessica. And next slide. So today we have a wealth of information for you all. What I'll just say is for those who are returning Elevate Youth California Round 2 partners, whether it was part of our standard track or capacity building partners, you're familiar with many of these pieces. It's going to be very, very similar to how things were about 3 years ago. But I know, again, there might be new staff members, there might be new folks from your team that are on here. So I'll give the same message to our new round of partners as well. So those who are being awarded for the Elevate Youth California Award for the first time, a handful of things that we'll talk about. We're trying to keep things very high level on this call to just go over a few key pieces. I will share that the webinar, again, is going to be recorded. It will be shared out with partners later this week, along with supplemental materials. Over the next few weeks, we're going to have some more trainings, which we'll talk about at the very end. But what I'll just say is that all the important details will be shared with you and have been shared with you already. So our primary purpose right now, our sort of primary focus, is ensuring that we have everything for the grants and or for the contracts, your subcontract with the center for your Elevate Youth California Award. And before I jump into the agenda, I just want to highlight that you've all received an email by now. If you haven't, we'll have our email address at the very end, and we'll go ahead and follow up on next steps. But right now, what we're really looking for you, the most immediate item, is getting your updated budget, your budget justification, as well as your updated work plan to ensure the delayed announcement and the timing of the activities that you'll be completing. So if there's anything that you're taking away from right now, I will say that's probably the primary focus. But as we go through, we're going to cover various pieces on supporting you all as you are currently awarded. So we'll give some background on the program. Jessica will help or will lead that portion of it. We'll talk about our cohort partners. Samantha will chime in for the communication strategy. Carissa will be talking about the contract agreement process and insurance requirements. We'll have a review of grant requirements, which include our financial reporting as well as our programmatic reporting, which both Keith and Brianna will be supporting on sharing. And then we'll have some important reminders, some of the pieces that I just mentioned around your contract and things to look out for. And we'll have ample time for questions and answers. And what I'll just say is if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat. So there is an option for dropping questions. That's probably the best place to go ahead and drop them. Alternatively, you can drop them in the chat. But I will say that they might get missed if other folks are chiming in on certain pieces in the chat. So Q&A is your best option for questions that are coming, and we'll try to keep questions, or we'll answer them as long as they pertain to this current section. And if they're about a future section, we'll highlight those questions at that time. So with that, we'll go ahead and start, and I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Thank you, Palvinder, and thank you, team from the center again. My name is Jessica, and I'm the section chief of the Program and Policy section at the Department of Healthcare Services. Before I go to the next couple of slides, specifically in our division, we are the grant administrator. Within the last 3 years, we've given out over $1 billion worth of grant funding to community-based organizations, local county governments, and also tribal entities. And so on behalf of the Department of Healthcare Services, we want to, first of all, thank you for applying. Thank you for your patience as we've had to work some things out on the back end prior to releasing this fund, but huge congratulations to everybody around, those that are returning and then those that are now receiving an Elevate Youth California grant for the first time. I'm going to give a little bit of historical info, and then I'll pass it back over to the center. But I'd be remiss to not, again, thank the center for really helping lead the Elevate Youth California endeavor. You guys are in great hands with Palvinder and team. We could absolutely not do it without them. We really are the administrator side. We send out the contracts and give out the funding. All of that is possible because of Prop 64. As many of you know, Prop 64 legalized adult use of cannabis, and it created new taxes on the cultivation and sale of marijuana. Those revenues go directly into the California Marijuana Tax Fund, and 60% of it goes to what's known as the YPETA, which is the Youth Education, Prevention, Early Intervention, and Treatment Account. We can go to the next slide. Though that percentage is directed to a couple of places, just want to give that disclaimer. It pays for childcare vouchers and youth that are in need of foster care placement. It funds Elevate Youth California. It funds grants to the California Natural Resources agencies, and then funds a public health campaign through CDPH. Elevate Youth California is directly funded through the Department of Healthcare Services. And as you can see the slide, it just tells you a little bit more about which allocation cycle that it's directly from. But again, on behalf of the Department of Healthcare Services, huge congratulations. We hope that you continue to apply for grants and not stop with Elevate Youth California. We have quite a bit of grants over here at the Department of Healthcare Services, and we typically give the announcement through the newsletter. With that said, I will go ahead and pass it back to Palvinder.
Thanks so much, Jessica. And we greatly appreciate our partnership with the Department of Healthcare Services as well, and also the Prop 64 Advisory Group to ensure that this funding remains in the hands of community organizations and tribal organizations who reflect the communities they serve. So go to the next slide. I'm going to go ahead and cover a brief overview of the Elevate Youth California program for folks who, you might be applying to multiple awards, and a refresher might be nice. So we really look at this Elevate Youth California program is grounded in social justice youth development, really ensuring that young people are centered in this work, they're leading this work, especially the policy systems and environmental change goals that you have outlined in your application, but also now have an opportunity to revisit as well. Want to make sure that young people are excited, they're committed to the policy goal, and sometimes that might require getting their feedback as well over the course of the award as well. So we're really focused on youth substance use disorder prevention, education, and early intervention. So those are the key areas around substance use disorder that we're focused on, and ensuring that we're really highlighting prevention, education, and early intervention. And we think about prevention in the broadest means possible, and ensuring that promoting healthy factors and protective factors, and increasing those, and reducing risk factors that young people in the local communities might be facing. So really, each of your programs are designed for the local communities that you're working with. We understand that there are cultural and linguistic nuances to the communities you're serving, and so it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all programmatic or activity-based model, but really allowing community-based organizations to determine what that looks like for the young people they're working with. So we'll cover in the next slide the social justice youth development and what it looks like in action. So really, youth social mentoring and peer support programming. So really thinking about that mentorship and peer support for young people, and particularly those who are disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And some of these examples include youth-led organizing, student civic engagement. We see policy goals at all sorts of levels with the Elevate Youth California program, at local city levels, county levels, within the school systems, and also at the statewide and even a few federal initiatives as well. And so really looking at what that advocacy looks like, what that is led by young people. And, having been a prior youth organizer, while sometimes it's a little bit easier to have the adults, champion that change, all of those pieces, the key component to Elevate Youth California is that it's youth-led and youth-centered. And as you work with young people over the next just under 3 years for the Elevate Youth California Award, we really encourage you to ensure that young people are having that leadership development, training, mentorship to ensure that their advocacy, that they're centered in the advocacy. This can also look like campaigns to address, school or community concern, efforts to change a social condition through public policy. Again, really ensuring that young people are centered through that and are able to make those changes. So I will highlight that a handful of times. That's probably the second piece that I'd probably want you to go away with is at all times within your programmatic activities is ensuring that the program is relatable and applicable to young people. And if for some reason there's pieces around recruitment or engagement, kind of going back to that and sort of seeing why is it that young people might not be engaged or might not be interested. But we have no doubt, we're pretty sure that, we've seen successful initiatives through your organizations in other ways in engaging young people. Next slide, please. The second component or area is really around substance use disorder prevention. And I mentioned this earlier, is really around prevention in the broadest means possible. It's not just about educating around substance use disorder. It's really about thinking, what are those healthy behaviors that can be promoted? What sort of risks can be reduced? How do we build protective factors for the young people? Ensuring that we're able to prevent new starts of substance use or mitigate consequences and contributing factors associated with substance misuse. And also looking at a harm reduction. So for the young people who are already engaging in substances, not turning away those young people, but really looking to reduce at-risk, moderate, and even high-risk behaviors that are often associated with substance misuse. So really thinking about how do you, work with young people who might have already been engaging. So it's not making this turning into substance misuse as well. Next slide. Two of our or three of our implementation strategies, one which is required, which is that youth civic engagement component. So all organizations, all funded partners must have a policy goal. Before we execute the subcontracts with your organizations, we'll be confirming the policy goal is clearly stated. If your organization is looking to go ahead and engage young people and solicit that particular policy goal, with young people's voices in mind, then we'll go ahead and have some language around that as well. And then we require at least one other component or implementation strategy, and that's either mentorship and or peer-led support and leadership programs. So your organization is able to decide. We usually see both components, a component around mentorship, relationship building, and then also a piece around peer-led support and leadership programs. But these two strategies, it's either or both of them that your organization is able to decide on. So that's really a high level overview of the EYC program, our intended goals and our implementation strategies. And if at any time you have any questions about, do these activities qualify or is this in alignment, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We're happy to go ahead and share more information, go ahead and confirm that the activities that you're proposing or looking to implement are in alignment with the Elevate Youth California program. Next slide. The next portion, we're going to cover some of our pieces on the website. So our website is a great resource. It not only has our past funded partners. In the next week or two, it'll also have your cohort. So your cohort's currently not listed on there right now, but it will be listed in the same format that the rest of the cohorts are, but you have an opportunity to click on the program impact page. On the program impact page of our website, it'll have this list of partners. You can go ahead and toggle over each of the cohorts and see who those funded partners from each of those cohorts are. Additionally, next slide, and this is what it'll look like, and in the next week or two, your cohort page will be built out as well. So we're so grateful to be welcoming 75 funded partners for the Elevate Youth California Standard Track Cohort 5 cohort. So amazing to be able to bring on 75 organizations, community-based organizations and tribal organizations who are doing incredible work across the state. Go to the next slide. And so we'll be able to sort of see the overarching Elevate Youth California awards and impact that we've made. To date, with your cohort being onboarded, we've been able to make 365 grant awards across and work that's been done across 55 counties in California. While there's some partial work being done in a few of the last 3 counties, we're across 55 counties with this work. And to date, through the funding through Proposition 64, and the details that Jessica mentioned, we've been able to award $257 million to date. So just really incredible commitment through Proposition 64 and the invested support from the Department of Healthcare Services. So we'll go ahead and pause and we'll go to the next slide. We'll go ahead and pause there. There's some questions about applications and all of that. I believe there were 264 applications for cohort 5. So for this round of funding, and 75 organizations were applied. Another questions around, can we get a copy of the slides? Yes, a copy of the recording of the webinar along with a copy of the slides will be sent out later this week. And also there's a few resources that we're going to be mentioning. Those resources will also be shared. Jessica, there is a question in the chat that's asking about signing up for the DHCS newsletter. What I will say is that anytime there's a funding opportunity that comes out from the Department of Healthcare Services, they typically let our team know, and we forward that as a separate email, letting our funded partners know about that opportunity. But Jessica, if you wanted to chime in about signing up for the DHCS newsletter. And Jessica might be on mute, but we can go ahead and provide that information as well in just a little bit. So There's another questions, particularly about the some of the materials that's needed for the subcontract, but I'm going to go ahead and I answered that in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and answer that at the very end. So we'll hold off on any questions that are related to your subcontract, your award. All of those questions we'll get at the very end. You're more than welcome to drop them in the Q&A chat for now, and then we'll answer them as they come, as well as answer holding time at the very end. So do encourage folks to stay on till the very end, so that way we can make sure to address any specific questions that you had from our emails that have been coming over for the last week. So with that, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'm going to actually pass it over to Samantha.
Hello again, everybody. Thank you for having me join this orientation call. On behalf of the Center's communications team, I want to add our congratulations on your award, and we really look forward to working with you all and mostly uplifting your collective work. So as introduced at the beginning, I'm currently the program's primary communications partner, and I work closely with Elevate Youth California program teams and other partners on the center's side, and internally with our communications folks, Lisa and Madison. Know that you have the full power of our team behind you as well. So we are really interested in and committed to uplifting your hard work and your impact with the youth and communities you serve. And so to that end, we invite you to please share with us your photos and your stories, your events, media mentions, tag us in your social media posts. We really want to be able to uplift your work and would love to know, who on your team is best to speak with if you are interested in being a spokesperson for your work, so that we can share in any opportunities that we have to talk about this great work together. We can go to the next slide. I really wanted to share a note about a tool we're going to be sharing out this week. In it, we'll have provided social media graphic templates and draft language, because we imagine some of you will be really interested in sharing news of and announcing this award with your communities. And so we want to make sure you have all the tools that you need to be able to do that. And that includes some language about the award and about the program, so that you can do so and connect through that language to this network of many others in this cohort that are also doing this work throughout the state. We know you might be interested in sharing the good news of your grant through a press release, and so we ask that you send any draft releases our way. This really is just to give us the chance to help you in review, providing anything that you're looking for, checking funding statements, making sure that you've got all of the information you need to share your good news. But also it's so we can keep an eye out for media coverage and share that with our networks too, when you have the good news of a media outlet in your region sharing that exciting news. So we can go to the next slide. This is a funding statement that you'll also receive. This just has how you can, language about how you can talk about this award. We do ask that you share it in your announcements, press releases, and then also we have a shorter version for any time you're doing, like social media captions or videos, anything like that. It's an abbreviated version that just lets people know how you're connected to the center, the state, and this cohort of other partners doing great work throughout the state. We can go to the next slide, and this is it. If you have any communications questions, if you'd like to share with us your press release drafts or need anything from us, please reach out to our communications team. I'll also drop the email address in the chat, and please CC the Elevate Youth California program team when you do so. This just helps make sure that we get back to you in a timely manner. And that's it. We're going to, yes, the language for the announcement will be in that toolkit. We've also got some other tools that we want to make sure that you have so that you can announce your work and talk about your work. So we'll be sharing that out later this week. Any other questions?
You can go to the next slide. Let me see if I see any questions specifically for comms right now. And if you do have your hand raised, we do encourage you to go ahead and put your question in the chat or in the Q&A box, just so that way we can see it there. Let's see. Same there, I can take this one. Do all materials, outreach, and information need to be submitted for review? This is a great question. No, but Sam did touch on information about the press release. Anytime you utilize the EYC logo specifically for like promotional materials or swag, we do ask that you send that over just to ensure that we are getting our support with the branding guidelines that we have set out. But if you're creating a graphic for once your program launches or you're looking to go ahead and recruit young people, you do not need to have your materials sent over to the center to review. But if you would ever like to have us review, just to get some feedback, we'd be more than happy to do so. Another question about when we will receive the toolkit. The toolkit will be sent out later this week, along with the recording of the slides, or the recording of the webinar and the slides. Sam, there is a question about how much time do you need for approvals of press releases, etc.
Oh, appreciate that. I think that our state partners also like to review and just be notified about these. So I think that probably like if you have 4 or 5 days, that's ideal. That gives us a chance to just sort of like concurrently review and get back to you with any questions. So especially if you have questions. But we know that sometimes, you're moving more quickly than that. So please just include in your email your timeline, and if there's anything we should know in particular that you're trying to reach in terms of your timeline.
Thanks. And just in general, typically I'd say give us at least a day or a few days, a day or two. It's often pretty difficult to turn something back in the same day, just depending on who's, especially when it involves other teams from the center. And so, as Sam mentioned, timeline is always great. There's another question for communications. Will there be support for translation if there's items in the toolkit that we'd like translated? The toolkit, what we'll say is that items right now will not be translated. So we typically don't provide translation for materials outside of the materials that we provide for you all. So if there is something that you would just let us know. While it might take a little bit longer to get translations done, we want to be mindful that they've gone through all their checks as well. And so we don't do those translations in-house here at the center. We typically contract out for that. So we would need a little bit of time and leeway on that. But what I will say is if there's any materials that you get from the center and you would like them translated, let us know. We typically do provide a template or an example of a media and liability release form. And so we have that translated already in Spanish, but if there's any additional items that you'd like translated, just let us know and we'll let you know if that's within our scope on that end. I think that might be all the comms related questions. Oh, there's another question. The language for the announcement, will that be in the toolkit?
We do have some additional tools that have some former press release language. I'll chat with the program team about that, but currently what we have on offer is the funding statement and then also some like social media tools to announce that way. But I'll chat with the program team and maybe we can share out when the toolkit goes out, anything additional that's been changed or added.
Thank you so much, Sam. I do see someone still has their hand raised. So Ashley, if you have a question, we do encourage you to drop it in the chat or go ahead and drop it in the Q&A for now, but we'll go ahead and unmute folks at the very end to allow for specific questions. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and continue on and we'll pass it over to Carissa to cover contract agreement process and insurance requirements. Next slide.
Hello, so I'm Carissa, once again, contract administrator. So first thing up is going to be the contract agreement process. It's pretty simple. You are going to receive a email via Conga sign. It will actually be Carissa Rogers via Conga sign with a link to your subrecipient agreement. From there, you can review it and then go ahead and sign it. If you have any questions, you can email me prior to signing and I can answer those for you or make any necessary changes. What you will probably receive prior to receiving the conga sign is going to be your trust layer link. And that's where you will put in your insurance requirements, which will be on the next slide. So for the insurance requirements, you do have 30 days of executing your agreement to submit your insurance requirements. If you do go past that 30 days, there's not a huge penalty, but you will not receive your initial payment until we do have that insurance compliance. You do need to maintain the insurance for the entire duration of the project. So if your insurance is going to expire during the term, you need to renew it. If you have any questions regarding the insurance, you can reach out to insurancecompliance@sierrahealth.org, and I can go ahead and help you out there. We do have a resource for nonprofits through Cal Nonprofits, and they can help you out with any insurance issues that you may be having. So the first insurance requirement is going to be your commercial general liability. Each occurrence needs to be at least $1 million. And then your general aggregate and products completed aggregate need to be at least $2 million. With your CGL, there's going to be 2 endorsements that are going to be required. So that's going to be your primary and non-contributory endorsement, and then the additional insured endorsement. For these endorsements, we do need the actual endorsement uploaded into TrustLayer. You cannot just state in the description of operations that you have that endorsement. Next slide, please. Under auto, it's going to apply to owned, hired, and non-owned autos, and that needs to be at a limit of at least $1 million. Again, on this one, there's the additional insured endorsement. And then for workers' comp, there's going to be each accident, liability disease for each employee, and then liability disease for the policy limit. All 3 of those need to be at least $1 million. And then again, another endorsement for that, which is going to be the waiver of subrogation. And then the last requirement is going to be professional liability. So that's going to be at least $1 million with a $2 million aggregate. And then here's some additional requirements for your COI. Sierra Health Foundation does need to be named as a certificate holder. And then the description of operations, which is going to be on the bottom of your COI, needs to have the statement, the Center, Sierra Health Foundation, the state of California, their respective officers, directors, agents, so on. That needs to be listed under the description of operations. And then you do need to make sure that you have the agreement number 23-30138 on there. Next slide. And then this here is just a sample certificate. That's pretty much it. Again, I just want to put it out there that we do need the actual endorsements. So make sure that you have those and not just listing it on the description. And then another thing too is that if you are already a previous EYC partner or another partner on another project, we do need you to submit another COI, and it needs to be, so when you log into your TrustLayer profile, it needs to be added to this specific project. If you just upload to a different project, then it's not gonna mark you as compliant for this project, if that makes sense.
Thanks so much, Carissa. There's a few questions in the chat, so we're going to keep them related to contracts as well as insurance requirements. There's one around, we just renewed our commercial liability. It's complex and contains all the coverage for the Youth Suicide Prevention Program contract. I'm assuming this also covers the Elevate Youth contract. This is pretty similar, but as Carissa mentioned, you will also need the additional language. So if we go on the slide right before this, there's this additional language. Oops, one more. There's a description here, and it must also have this agreement. So typically you should be able to reach out back to your insurance broker and they'd be able to provide that last sentence as well. So to ensure that this agreement is on there. Chris, is there anything else in regards to this? If insurance and my recommendation to the organization would be to just confirm. So we'll be sending out the full list of insurance requirements over email, along with the recording of this webinar, as well as the slides and some additional materials. And so that would be an opportunity to just double check. Okay, there's another question, Carissa, about do we need auto insurance if there's no one driving?
No. So if there is no driving that is going to be happening, then you can reach out to that insurance compliance email and I can send you over a waiver of I'm sorry, not a waiver of an attestation letter to waive the auto.
Okay, another question, or just generally, yes, all this information will be provided over email. No worries if we're going too fast. We're trying to keep it at a good pace, but all of the insurance requirements will be sent over via email. There was another question about insurance I saw, but oh, for contracts. We have a contracts team who goes through a process for our CEO to sign. Can the contract agreement be forwarded via email for signatures? Carissa, will you confirm that? I think typically our process is that the CEO, the signatory from your organization, which typically is the CEO or the executive director, they'd be receiving that email from CongaSign, and then they would be able to download and share it internally, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And then also another thing with CongaSign is if we do send it to the CEO or executive director and it may not be the correct person, make sure that that person doesn't forward the CongaSign, because if you forward it on, then it kind of messes up the signing process and then it gets stuck. So you can just reach out again to me and let me know that it's the wrong signer. Or I can also sometimes CC a person prior to the executive or the authorized signer signing. So if that's the case as well, you can reach out to me as well.
Okay, perfect. So again, we did send out a survey in that letter, or in our first, or in the email that the award notification that went out last week on Tuesday evening. That should have been over to you all, as well as with our follow-up information. That includes a oh gosh, now I lost my train of thought. That includes a link to a survey, and in that survey, it asks for who your CEO, executive director is, and that is, and it's specifically states on there, you know, who's going to be signing the contract. So typically, again, on our end, that usually goes to CEO, executive director, but sometimes organizations have different protocols. For smaller organizations, it might be a board chair, for example. So we would just need you to update that. So if any, once the contract is sent out over the next few weeks, you're welcome to go ahead and email us if you do need to have that updated. There's an email about wording. Yes, the wording will be sent over email. Again, it's that contract number specifically that's stated. There's a few other questions. Same question again around auto insurance. Again, auto insurance is only required if you do have staff driving organization-owned vehicles. You know, again, that is, you can request a waiver if you do not have any driving that is going to be covering this program. And you would just email us for that. We'll send over information on that as well via email. I'm going to take the questions around budget templates, all of that later. We have our contract director. You know, again, if you have other folks from your team who's reviewing contracts, we ask that your team send it over internally. At the time that your team does receive it, you're also welcome to send us an email in case forwarding it over, you know, or downloading and sending it to internally does not work. You can email us over at that time and we'll go ahead and try to get you a copy of it as well. We do ask that you are being patient. We do have 75 partners that we're trying to award and, you know, that we're trying to onboard. So again, if you are sending over information, we do ask that you send it over email, and we'll go ahead and get you that support. There's a question specifically for insurance. Our professional liability is for our legal staff. I am unaware of other kinds of professional liability for our staff. Is this something that is part of our GBL policy, or do we need separate professional liability for our youth program staff? Chris, are you able to take that?
I actually answered in the chat, and I'm gonna have them send me over their coverage to check and see.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Awesome. I think we answered all of the questions for right now. So we'll go ahead and cover the next portion, which I think is going to answer a few of the questions that are dropped in the chat. So we'll go ahead and go over the overview of grant requirements. And this will answer a lot of questions about payments, which folks are very curious about, which we totally understand. So this is a deliverable-based payment schedule. So the schedule is deliverable based. And I say this because the contract is not deliverable based. So we were able to work with the Department of Healthcare Services, ensure that we're able to not have this be a reimbursable program. So it is on a payment schedule. The first payment is upon the execution of the subcontract and the completion of all compliance components, which includes insurance compliance. What we have seen is oftentimes the insurance compliance and securing the insurance. If you have not received recently a award from the center, that typically takes a while for some organizations. So we do encourage, when we send out the list this week, for you to get ahead of that and start working on securing that insurance. So as soon as you execute the contract, as well as the insurance is confirmed, you've submitted all of the certificates of insurance via TrustLayer, we'll be able to release that first payment. The first payment is your first year budget. So already a question that's been dropped in the chat, what percentage of our award is that? It's going to be your first year's award. That is why last week we sent out an updated budget and confirmation to ensure that your first year covers activities to 12/31/2024. So we want to ensure that the payment that you're getting covers your programmatic costs through the end of the year. And then we'll have the second payment based upon a receipt and approval of the following reports for year two, or through year one, sorry. And so that will be progress reports progress reports 1 and 2, as well as financial reports 1 and 2, and the detailed expenditure listing that accompanies the financial report. So we have shifted for those folks who are returning EYC funded partners. We do not have quarterly progress reports as well as annual financial reports. We have biannual reporting. So twice a year, in the summer and in the winter, you'll go ahead and submit progress reports as well as financial reports. Those will be due at the same time. The first progress report, which we'll cover in a little bit, and financial report will be due June 15th. Keep in mind that while this is due June 15th, both reports, we do understand that some partners, because award announcements only happened last week, that some partners are still getting acquainted with their programming. They're going to go ahead and start. They're still in their planning phases to adjust for the delay in award announcement. So we do understand, but we do want to ensure that you are getting familiar with our reporting template. So it is important for all folks to be submitting everyone will be required to submit the progress report and financial report in June, as well as the next one will be due in January, and it'll incorporate activities through the end of the year. We had some adjustments. So for those folks, you might be, when we submitted this award, it was November to November, 3 years. Now it's 3 years and 6 months because we are having an adjusted time frame. And so we have an additional 6 weeks, and we're looking to incorporate that this year in year one, so that all subsequent reporting could be aligned with the calendar year. For anyone on this call who is a part of an accounting team, you're probably screaming hallelujah, because it is a great benefit to have your financial reporting end at the beginning and end of the month, or start at the beginning of the month and end at the end of the month, versus having it mid-month. So we are looking to have that shift happen at the end of this year, but your first progress report will be, as well as financial report, will cover activities from November 15th. So it's that back date of November 16th, 2023 to May 15th, 2024. At the beginning of next year in January, at the end of January, you'll submit your next progress report and financial report. It'll take anywhere from a few weeks to a month or two to wrap up that process of that review. Once all of that is reviewed, approved, we'll go ahead and release the next payment, which includes your activities or your budget for the second year. And then your third and final payment will be made at the beginning of 2026. And that would include your third year budget. So next slide. Covered a little bit of this, but overview of requirements, technical assistance and work plan. So it's a work plan. Many of our partners are submitting this at this time. You're revising it. So we do ask that you take a look at relook at your activities with a delayed announcement, determine what your plan is, update your work plan, update your budget justification, send that over. We did ask for that to be submitted this week, I believe on the 11th. So April 11th, this Thursday. If you need more time, just let us know, send us an email, respond back to that same thread, and we'll go ahead and make a note on that on the additional time. Please note that until we receive your updated documents, we're not able to proceed with your subcontract. So we do ask that, if you're looking for additional time, we do want you to know that it'll take additional time to get out your contract as well as to get out your first payment. So be patient with us. If you're asking for more time, it will take us a little bit longer to get that because we have to have all of that secured. As I mentioned, we do have biannual progress reports as well as biannual financial reports. So twice a year, you'll have both of those reports submitted. The financial report is accompanied by a detailed expenditure listing, which we'll have a training on next week. And then at the very end, the last reporting that's due, it's not an additional report, it's just the last report that's due. It'll be a final report. It'll have the progress report plus a cumulative portion. And then you'll be able to submit your final financial report as well. That's going to also include a detailed expenditure listing. So we'll go to the next slide. And I believe I am covering this. Brianna, sorry, just having to check in on this real quick. Brianna, did you want me to cover the slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So you might be asking what's on your biannual progress report. Again, I know I'm going to be bringing up folks who have been awarded previously, specifically because the template has changed. We are excited to have an updated reporting template. It'll ask demographic data, it'll ask about partnerships, it'll ask about the program events and activities, and also include a narrative portion. The report, it not only allows for the Department of Healthcare Services to respond back into any legislative reports. Again, a reminder that this is state funding through Proposition 64. This is one of the largest prevention programs that supports community-based and tribal organizations across the state and probably even across the nation. And so we want to make sure that we have the particular pieces that the state legislature is also requesting, as well as the narrative portion, which really allows us here at the center to see how to best support you. We understand that community-based organizations have a number of challenges at times, and so we want to ensure that you're supported. So oftentimes when partners list out their challenges that they're experiencing, it allows us to know, why there might be lower engagement or activities that reporting period. It's not punitive in any sort of way, but it allows us to be able to better understand what's going on for your organization, because we know that the activities don't happen in a silo or a vacuum, that what's going on in the community, what's going on for your organization also impacts that as well. And so again, just allows us to be able to better support you through technical assistance, through training, through one-on-one support. And also, so you're not feeling like, you're feeling guilty that you might have lower activities or lower young people engaged. Just allows you to know that you're also sharing with us, what some of those challenges, as well as celebrating your successes. So if you had a policy win, or you were able to reach more young people than you thought, or there was a great interest in a particular activity, it allows us to know that and to celebrate that with you as well. There's a number of ways that we utilize the information that's submitted in the biannual progress report. We also we often look at that to be able to determine organizations for panels for conferences that we apply to. So really important to make that the narrative section detailed, but not cumbersome for you, but we'll cover that in about 2 weeks. We'll go ahead and send out an invite if it already hasn't gone out for that webinar as well. Next slide. And I'll pass it over to Keith to cover the next few slides around financial reporting.
Hi, everyone. This is going to be high level. I'm going to see you all again next week, the 15th at 2 p.m. There's 112 or 114 folks on the call today. I hope I get at least 50, otherwise my feelings will be hurt. But I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you again next week to talk about this more in depth. Today, the alligator closest to the boat is your budget that you'll be resubmitting. And let's look at the silver lining here. It's a little bit of extra work, but hindsight is 2020. So hopefully we'll have really good fidelity between the activities that we're budgeting for and the activities that have happened thus far and will happen for the rest of this budget period. One thing to keep in mind on those budgets, let's keep the categories broad since we're having a moment to revise and revisit them anyway. Instead of having Ira Glass, podcast director for year 1 and 2, maybe Ira goes on paternity leave and somebody has to fill in, or Ira quits. Just say podcast director. And the expenditure detail, when we report those biannually, we'll have a chance to put the employee's name. So as we revisit our budgets, let's try to keep those budget categories broad. We are going to keep supporting documentation for expenditures for the detailed expenditure listing requirement, and we're going to go over the record retention and everything like that for next week's event. However, if you're putting out your budget and you see things that you know you've spent already, but you're not sure if they're well documented, well, double check. If they're not documented, you might want to keep them off of your budget revision because they're not going to be allowable under USC. To be allowable, they have to be reasonable, allowable, documented, allocable, and necessary. Okay, let's go to the next slide. This is what your financial report used to look like in USC2, which a lot of folks here are USC2 partners. USC5 got a little bit of a spruce up. It'll look similar, and there are a couple tabs. The first tab correlates to your budget here. That's your financial report. The second tab is the expenditure detail listing, and that's really where we're going to focus next week's training. So we can think of the detailed expenditure listing as a CSV export from your accounting information system, whether it's QuickBooks or it's Sage or it's a spreadsheet that your bookkeeper keeps. It's just a list of all those transactions, the receipt from Target, the receipt from Chipotle, the date, the amount, and it's a list of those. And we're going to tag each one of those things with a budget category that aligns with your budget. And every 6 months, you're going to have to provide that list of expenditures that fall under UIC. They're going to have to tie to your budget categories. And that means you're going to need separate accounting to be able to do this sort of in an expedient manner, because we are requiring it twice a year. And you don't want to have a 4-hour put together session with all the receipts and entering in all the receipt data. Better to keep the separate accounting going now if it hasn't been in place yet, and keep those things segregated. The rest of this we're going to cover next week, but the typical things that we're talking about for source documentation, whether it be time cards for folks that are charging time to UIC, receipts for things like credit cards, invoices for paying those contractors and consultants and people that come to visit your youth and give them trainings. All of those things are not required to be submitted every 6 months, but they need to be kept on hand, because what I'm going to do when I get those 6 months reports with the expenditure detail listing is I'll be selecting a handful of transactions for a desk review. And if you're selected for a desk review, I'll be reaching out and asking for that source documentation. So to have it saved in a way that's easily retrievable is going to be key to answering those desk review requests in a timely manner. That's it for this slide. Unallowable expenses. So the big ones on here, we need to be very careful, and these are things we should have caught in the original budget reviews, but as you're putting together your budget, keep these in mind for your revision. Capital expenses get very tricky, and that's anything over 5,000. What's not listed on here is not an unallowable expense, but it is a tricky expense for us. It is out-of-state travel. So if you had out-of-state travel on your original budget and you're planning to keep it in your revised budget, make sure that we know that it's out-of-state travel first, because we need to send that up for prior approval there, and you need to be aware that it's under the Cal HR rate. So you'll be traveling as if you're a non-bargaining state employee and using those rates, and those rates will be promulgated next week's training and also via email if they haven't already been. But it's the Cal HR website, and there's new 2024 rates that we'll be going over next week, but they are lower than you'd probably like. So keep that in mind when you are putting together your training and travel budgets. The rest of these things are pretty self-explanatory as unallowable expenses.
Thank you, Keith. I'll take the next few slides. So your cumulative final report, so covered the progress of the biannual reporting, both progress report as well as the financial report. The final cumulative report will include same sort of questions that your biannual progress report question does, so quantitative questions, qualitative questions, narrative questions, and then also a few cumulative questions. The cumulative questions will not require you to keep data or information ahead of time. You could answer those at the end. It's really more reflective to be able to better understand your program and the impact that your word has had. You'll also have at that time a financial report as well at the end of your award period that will follow the same template that we'll be covering next week, unless there's some minor changes, but overall the same template. Next slide. We got a question was asking about the timelines and the dates that we mentioned. Thanks to my team for dropping in the answer. This slide lists all the reporting and data requirements. So again, biannual reporting, both progress reports as well as financial reports and detailed expenditure listings. We'll be in contact for reporting every 6 months. We'll go ahead and have this information shared over to you on a separate document as well, as it will be listed in your subcontract as well. So again, you can see those dates aligned. This year is a little bit wonky. Just the 11/16, so November 16th to May 15th, May 16th to 12/31 to the end of the year, and then next year we align with the calendar year starting in 2025. Next slide. And folks might be asking, how do I submit? Becoming a little bit eager on that. But for right now, we'll be focusing on the updates to the budget justification, and work plan for your contract. We'll share information about how to submit in the report submission process in both of our subsequent webinars, the financial report webinar next week, and then the progress reporting template webinar in the following week. So again, we'll share more information on that at a later time. Next slide. Already got a question in the chat about this too, the budget modification process. We recognize that while at the start of the award, things might shift. So right now we are asking all organizations to review their budgets. You have this opportunity to adjust your budget to align with the shift in timeline, which is again till December 31st of this year for year one. And then after that, if there are any changes, you can request that. We do want to be mindful and responsive to organizations that have shifts and changes. Sometimes it's around recruitment or something else that happens, changes in personnel, various factors, and being able to shift funds to allowable items. So again, budget modifications will be reviewed. You're only allowed to request allowable items. And then if you're adding a new line item or the section total changes by more than 10%, you'll be required to submit a budget modification. We'll share more information about this and the nuances to it next week. We do have a template. So if you're in the coming months, if you, I don't imagine that it'll be before the first few months that a partner needs to modify their budget. But at some point in the award period, if you do, you're able to reach out. We do allow you to also roll over funds from year 1 to 2. Many times organizations have underspent funds in the first year. Even though you're having an opportunity to pause right now, to accurately determine, when can you start activities? What does that first year budget look like? There is, things that might come up and things that might change. You weren't able to hire someone on as quickly as you thought. You might have had some personnel challenges, or an event that you were planning for in year 1 is actually being moved to year 2. So any of those variety of reasons, you're able to move over those funds into year 2. Again, we do not typically, and we don't foresee allowing a no-cost extension. So we don't anticipate that. We do anticipate the award ending December 31st, 2026. And if you have any requests for budget modifications, you would just go ahead and send it over to me. The email's listed on here, as well as copying the Elevate Youth California email as well. Next slide. I think we'll be able to take some questions. So do we need to do budget modifications if our budgets are different from our original submission? Yes. So if at any point your budget does change by more than 10% of the section total, which again, we'll cover more about that while we cover the template and all those pieces next week. Or if you have a new line item, let's say you had a new staff member that you didn't budget for, that you were looking to add, or you had an additional cost that you wanted to, you would need to do a budget modification for that. At this time, we are not asking for budget modifications. We're asking for updated budgets, utilizing the templates that have already been sent over. So at this time, what we're asking for is an updated budget. So you received an email. In that email, it had already your budget copied on there. I believe it also had your work plan on there, if I'm not mistaken. It did not include your budget justification. There was a question in the chat that asked about budget justifications. All of these materials were submitted by your organization at the time of the application. So you should have these materials, but in case if you don't, you're more than welcome to reach out to us by replying to the email thread and requesting the budget justification document. At this time, and I'll cover this at the end again, we are looking for an updated budget justification, as well as an updated work plan. Again, all of these, the templates have remained the same. We had some changes. We had some brief changes in terms of the dates on the budget document or the budget spreadsheet, but outside of that, there weren't any changes to the template. So that is what we're looking at. Can we add new line items in the one we submit? Yes, we are asking all organizations to take a moment to pause and determine what costs they are going to have now. If there's been any changes from when you submitted, I think you submitted in August for the application, if I remember correctly. And so from August to now with a delayed announcement, as well as with the additional 6 week, there may have been some changes. And so we are asking that all organizations pause, take a moment. And again, if you need more time beyond this Thursday, April 11th, please let us know and we'll go ahead and be able to work with you for that extension. Let me see other questions. There was a question about, do we get an invite for the financial webinar? I don't remember receiving this. We have shared the link to register for the Zoom webinar in the previous award notification email, and it was also sent in a follow-up email. We'll go ahead and send another reminder later this week as well. There's mention about, or the question around, we were awarded for youth suicide prevention program as well. The financial template for that subcontract has been very useful. Will it be the same? Many of the templates at the center are similar, but they are not the same. So you will need to utilize the template that we share for Elevate Youth California for this award. Again, they will be similar. It'll also require a detailed expenditure listing, but we have our own template and you will need to utilize that. As we have reports coming up, we do remind folks and we do share the templates again. So again, the biggest piece would be to keep an eye out on your emails and to be able to ensure that you're utilizing the most recent and up-to-date template that is provided for this particular program for Elevate Youth California. Question about ACH and payments. Can payments be electronically transferred or is check preferred? I believe the award notification should have had some information about ACH, but if it didn't, it should have had it, but we will also reshare that information. If you have not previously received electronic payment from the center, you can sign up for ACH, and we'll have some more information about that via email. Question about the justification, which I mentioned. So again, if you have not, you can't access your justification at that previous time or from your application that you submitted, send us an email and we'll get you that. Another question about is one work plan per calendar year? No, it is one work plan for the entire award period. So same thing as you submitted at the time of your application. Your budget justification, and work plan is for your entire Elevate Youth California award, which is now 3 years and 6 weeks. We understand that many funded partners are only beginning activities after April 2nd, which was the award announcement. However, some organizations might have already began activities. These are some of our round 2 partners that were awarded again. They wanted to go ahead. They believed that in they were planning to continue their activities, and of course, if they were awarded, they would utilize some of their EYC budget. Of course, we don't do re-granting in that same way. It is a competitive process, and so you would be able to backdate and utilize any look to charge any expenses through November 16th, 2023 to this award. However, it will be as part of your Elevate Youth California activities. And so if you are looking to charge costs prior to this, it would also be needed to be noted in your progress report as well as activities for this award. I think that might be all the questions for, let me see. Are we able to consider the costs that have already occurred since November into this updated budget? Again, if you did, in fact, if you it did have costs that are related to your Elevate Youth California program, so if you were an organization, and again, typically we would probably only see this for organizations, while it's not a guarantee, it's an organization that wanted to implement a program, and then they were betting that they were going to get this award. So if that's the case for your organization and you had activities that are in alignment with your Elevate Youth California program, they're listed on your work plan, you would be able to incur any costs after November 16th to the Elevate Youth California award. You're also able to include those in the budget as well. So we would see those reflected in the budget justification, and the work plan. For travel costs, if I recall correctly, there were required training travel costs. The locations of the required trainings? It's a great question. We anticipate a regional convening happening later in 2024, as well as in 2025. And that would be more locally. So we don't have exact locations for that, but we do have about 6 regions. So that would be, I would say, up to 2 hours of travel at the most, I would imagine. It's a little bit of a nuance actually, because there's some rural areas in Northern California that might require a little bit more, but typically, those trainings will be happening in Humboldt, Sacramento, the Bay Area, Kern, Los Angeles, Inland Empire, and yep, that's 6 of them. So those are the 6 regions. We'll go ahead and share those in the chat. So if Anthony or Shira can drop those in the chat for the team, for the awardees, that'd be great. And then in 2025, we anticipate having so in 2024 and 2026, we envision having 2 regional convenings. And then in 2025, there will be a youth and young adult convening in Sacramento. The youth and young adult convening that we're anticipating to be currently in Sacramento. We don't know for sure if it'll be in Sacramento, but I would budget out to be attending in Sacramento. A 2-day convening that will take place, and typically, or the last time around, we had up to 5 members from each organization participate. So that's something that you could budget out for. So up to 3 young people and up to 2 staff members for the 2025 convening. We'll go ahead and share some additional information about this in the chat as well as over email after this. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and continue. So we'll go ahead and continue, and we'll get to some of these questions at the very end. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Sharon. We'll just cover some of the convening questions. So Sharon.
No, thank you. Okay, so as a round 5 EYC standard track partner, there will be opportunities for you to engage in in-person and virtual convenings, as well as technical assistance opportunities to support your onboarding, as well as your program and policy systems and environmental change goals. In addition, the EYC program team hosts monthly networking sessions as an opportunity for you to engage with other EYC funded partners. Networking sessions are a safe space to learn, to share, and to also collaborate. We also offer virtual learning communities, and it's in these sessions that partners deepen connections with other partners, as well as explore specific topic areas related to your project. So some topics might include evaluation, social justice, youth development, youth engagement, systems change, capacity building, and more. There will also be in-person convenings, as Palvinder was just sharing, and as was shared, we anticipate both regional and statewide convening opportunities. And as convenings, as the date approaches, we'll be sure to share more information. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this next slide covers youth listening sessions. All funded partners are required to host a minimum of 1 youth listening session with the youth who are engaged each program year. The expectation is that young people are engaged throughout the project, so that's year-round. And to ensure consistency on messaging and that the project is resonating with its youth constituents, annual listening sessions must be held. Youth listening sessions are defined as a designated time for youth to provide feedback on program strategies and how implementation is going. This is a unique activity that is separate from regular programming, and it is centered around youth voices. For some, youth listening sessions may be called a focus group. Each funded partner is required to conduct 1 youth listening session annually, with a total of 3 youth listening sessions at the completion of the grant. It is suggested that you draft a series of questions that seek feedback and input from youth on a specific aspect of the program, including but not limited to planning, program activities, policies to change or to focus on, prevention campaigns, program material, and youth engagement. So a listening session can cover more than 1 topic if time allows. Ultimately, listening sessions are a time for you to hear from youth. We request that you include these listening sessions in your proposed activities, so that's your work plan, and also your budget. Listening session data, including the date, participant count, and highlights will be requested in reports submitted to the center. Okay, at this time, we can go to the next slide. So as it relates to technical assistance, webinars, and resources, our hope is to build a community of practice. We see each of you expanding the network by supporting the work that's being done in the field. We also want to point out that the Elevate Youth California website contains resources, including recorded training and supporting materials. So we encourage you to familiarize yourself with the website and to review past training opportunities to support your work. Some topics include policy, systems and environmental change, evaluation, prevention and education, capacity building, and more. And we are also actively exploring new training topics that would be beneficial to this cohort. We can go to the next slide. Okay, thank you. We'd like to take a moment to highlight other partner learning and engagements outside of in-person convenings, specifically networking sessions, as previously mentioned, webinars and trainings. Also, one-on-one sessions, which may look like technical assistance provided by the Elevate Youth California program team, or it may look like your team engaging with an external provider with expertise on a certain topic. Next slide, please. So as we draw near to the conclusion of this webinar, we want to share a few important reminders. And these bullet points are things that we want you to be mindful of. So the first is the timeline of the initial payment. As was previously shared, we want to note that all charges incurred after November 16th, 2023 and identified in the approved budget are allowed. Award payments made by the center will be paid once funding is received by the Department of Healthcare Services. Additionally, payments can only be made upon execution of the subcontract. And so as a reminder, that's coming from Conga Sign, and securing the required insurances. And as a reminder, an email from the center via trust layer with insurance requirements that will be coming your way soon. As it relates to communications, in the upcoming days, a toolkit will be shared. And so we want to make note of that. I'm also going to briefly, okay, yeah. Okay, so that's coming your way. I was checking out the chat to see what was shared. Also, we want to send a reminder about the updated budget, justification, and work plan. And so these items should cover the duration of the project. Information has been previously shared via email, and we want to make sure that your organization has these items submitted by the due date. If your organization has an approved extension, you want to make sure that you get those items in by that extension due date. Also, be on the lookout for the contract agreement, and please take proper steps to ensure compliance with the insurance requirements. As it relates to reporting, I know the date was mentioned, June 15th, was mentioned earlier for your first reports. We like to share that if that date falls on a weekend date, so a Saturday or a Sunday, then typically our team will be expecting those items from the organization on that following Monday, which would be June 17th. Please note that the center will host webinars and also office hours to make sure that you have the information needed to fulfill each of the reporting requirements. We want to make sure that you're familiarized with the template, the reporting templates, and you're able to fill out the report with confidence and also with accuracy. Also noting listening sessions that we just talked about. We hope that your organization is thinking about that and planning for those opportunities. Also, virtual and in-person convenings, making sure that that is showing up in your budget as previously recommended, and resources. And so we encourage you to definitely dive into our website to see what resources and trainings are available to you. We can go to the next slide, please. Okay. So we do want to point out that we have some upcoming training. And so we want you to save the date for Monday, April 15th from 2 to 3:30. That training will focus on finance. And so I know Keith had mentioned that earlier. So please be sure to register. You can see a QR code on the screen. This information will also be shared via email and has been shared via email, along with a training on the progress report. So please save the date for Tuesday, April 30th from 10:30 to 12 p.m. We can go to the next slide, please. Okay. And before we conclude and have some additional time for Q&A, we want to note our contact information. So if you ever have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can see the email contacts here on the screen. Be sure to send your messages to both emails, and also include your contract ID on all EYC related correspondence. So there are a number of partners. There are many organizations with similar names. And so we just want to make sure that that contract ID is present in your subject line and within your email. Also, we just want to point out some quick resources. You can see here the center's website, as well as the Elevate Youth California website. So this time we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a pause before we close out to see if there are any remaining questions.
I don't think I see many questions, but oh, there's some thank yous. Our team has dropped right now the slide or the links to the training. So this includes the biannual financial report or the financial reporting training, as well as the biannual progress report training. So those will be over the next 2 weeks. We've also included the link to the survey, and I think it didn't work for someone, but we've included an updated link. So hopefully that works out for folks. I just wanted to go ahead and do a few key reminders around the activity or the pieces that are due at this time, and that way we can just reiterate this. And if folks have any questions, we'll go ahead and once this is done, if there are no other questions and they're specific to an organization, we can go ahead and stop the recording and answer those questions. I do want to just do a reminder for the time frame. So the time frame for this award is November 16th, 2023 to December 31st, 2026. There was a question in the chat of, with the reduced, an organization might have received a modified award amount, and so this was lower than what they had requested. Can they have, can they only go into 2025 and not 2026? We do ask that every organization look to do activities throughout the entire award period. So while you might have had a lot of activities with the entire award amount that you were originally, or the entire requested amount that you were looking at, as you receive, if you may have received a lower award amount, we invite you to adjust those activities, ensure that your work plan is realistic based on the updated award amount. Instead of still having a high number of activities over a year, 2 years, we do ask that you have activities through the entire award period. At this time, Elevate Youth California funding is continuous. We do anticipate having future rounds of funding, of course, contingent upon a number of factors. But because of this, the new awards would be going out in 2027 that your organization would be eligible for. And this allows that the young people that you're working with have continuous activity. So again, wanting to be mindful of that. Contracts will be backdated to November 16th, 2023. Again, we do ask that you make sure that your updated budget justification, and work plan is sent over. And what I'll just say is that it's really an opportunity to ensure that your work plan is smart. It's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And I can't emphasize more than enough at this time to ensure that your work plan is realistic. You were notified on April 2nd of this award amount. We do not expect organizations to start activities tomorrow, next week. This will all be dependent on whether or not you're continuing activities that were already existing, or if you're looking to have new activities or programming or new staff members. You have to be mindful about what that realistic timeline is. Hiring takes on a little while. Onboarding does, same thing with youth engagement and recruitment. Some organizations are positioned to leverage their existing staff and activities. Not all organizations are positioned in this manner at this time, and that is okay. We want to make sure that what you're putting in your work plan is achievable and realistic. The last thing we'd want you to do is have a super ambitious work plan, and adding more stress to your organization, to your staff, but ensuring that it is realistic. So I know that while we shared, ensuring that your work plan at the time of application is, we all know how grant writing works, and ambitious applications. So again, really inviting you into this partnership at this time to go ahead and ensure that your work plans are realistic. I cannot stress this enough. Over the last 3.5 years that I've been a part of the Elevate Youth California program, and here at the center, I've seen many organization staff come on later on and, are like, this plan was super ambitious. And, while at the time of application, that is definitely seen, you have an opportunity to really revisit that, come up with a realistic timeline of hiring new staff, all of those various pieces, and really looking back at your proposed activities. Again, if you need additional time beyond April 11th, you may request that. Send us an email before April 11th. Please send us an email before the deadlines to request additional timing. At this time, what I can share is that we want to be mindful in getting payments out as quickly as possible. So we'll very likely do, you know, we want to make sure that we can get that out. So we'll be working with partners on that. So again, you know, just send us an email and we'll work with you on that. There were some other questions in the chat that I didn't get to, but that were answered by my colleagues in the Q&A box, and I just wanted to highlight them. This is state funding. It does not include any federal funds. So for organizations who need to make note of that, there was that question. I wanted to go ahead and answer that here. If you have any questions for insurance, my colleagues, someone from my team can go ahead and drop in the chat the insurance compliance email one more time. That would be great. All questions related to insurance or specifics around contracting, we do ask that you go ahead and send an email to both the insurance email and always, 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 without a doubt, you'll probably get this from emails that are you send to any of our team members. Always copy the Elevate Youth California email. If you don't know who it should go to, send it over to the Elevate Youth California inbox, and the team will go ahead and support in ensuring that it gets to the right folks. So with that, I also will just mention, we did drop in the chat or in the Q&A box the link to go ahead and sign up for DHCS's listserv. That's listed on there, as Jessica mentioned, that there's other awards and other applications that do come out from the Department of Healthcare Services. Again, when those are relatable to EYC grantees or funded partners, we do go ahead and forward those as well. I don't see any other questions right now, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. But before we do, I just want to go ahead and say one more time, congratulations on being selected. As we shared, you know, there was 264 applications that came in, eligible applications that came in for this particular round of funding. It is, again, a very competitive program. And we hope that you're taking time to celebrate getting this award. You know, there's always going to be things going on, but, you know, just wanting to say congratulations, and we're really excited for this partnership. The second piece is going to be around the partnership. This is a partnership. We do want to ensure that we are partners in this work. So if there's anything that we can do to support your organization over the next just a little bit under 3 years, we're more than happy to help. You can reach out to us. We're happy to figure out how we can provide additional technical assistance and training and support, answer any questions that you might have, or anything else that's going on for you. So again, you know, feel free to reach out. We are not just grant makers in this. You know, it is not just we're going to go ahead and check out your reporting, you know, give you the money, we'll take your reporting, and that's it. We really are looking for this to be a partnership and seeing how we can best support you through technical assistance, training, one-on-one support, small group support, all of those various pieces. And you're going to be one of the cohorts that gets to see us as quicker than I guess any of the other teams through our regional convenings this year. So we're really excited post-pandemic, you know, as we shift into our new normal, to be able to determine what that looks like. And we'll be providing resources and support virtually as well as in person. I do see another question, but it looks like someone from my team answered it. You know, for the personnel budget, can admin type positions like fiscal be under personnel? So again, that's typically a direct cost, or should it be included in indirect? Typically, there are direct costs. And again, if you have specific questions, we're happy to answer them. But because your financial or fiscal team would be supporting in the financial reporting, that typically does end up being a direct cost. But if there are ways that your organization does list out indirect costs, you're more than welcome to list them out that way. Again, we'll stay on for a few extra minutes and answer any questions that folks may have. But I do see a lot of celebrating in the chat, so it just makes me happy. Again, you know, we're just really grateful to be working with you and supporting your organization while you're doing incredible work with young people and for young people. So we appreciate this. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and then we'll go ahead and stay on for a few extra minutes to answer any other questions. Thank you all.